Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on a Sunday night. Here to talk about the NBA Finals and what those Pacers did last night. What's going on, Eric? How you doing?
Good, man. Definitely not the finals that we had drawn up early in the season, and definitely not the playoffs. But will be interesting to see. But yeah, things are good. How's everything on your end?
Everything's good, man. Great weekend. Obviously some great basketball yesterday.
Oh.
But now we have our finals set. So we're here to discuss, kind of talk about yesterday, a little bit of preview of the finals, and kind of get into our almost last schools out. We got one more after the NBA finals.
Yeah.
But as always, everybody, I am the game injury doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. I can be found at this handle at Game Injury Doc at all platforms. And Eric B. Mack on my right can be found on all the platforms at Eric B. Mack. We also have the Hoops Rehab Show YouTube and Instagram, so please subscribe and follow those pages. And then, as always, we'll always upload the pod after this, and it'll be available however you get your podcast. It's the Hoops Rehab Show. So if you can, please rate and comment, and we'll get it cracking like we always do. All right, Eric.
Yep.
Let's get it cracking on Game 6. You know, we were thinking, would the Knicks have enough to kind of push a Game 7? But Indiana closed that out in really the third quarter. But what do you think overall the game and how everything kind of turned out, especially if you take a picture going into the series of everybody probably assuming the Knicks were going to win, and we kept saying, don't underestimate these Pacers. So what do you think?
Yeah. So Pacers, I think each one of their series were perhaps underdogs, and so what happened again this round? They weren't facing one of the juggernauts like Boston or Cleveland, who they'd beaten the round before. But with Knicks having home court, I think a lot of us just wanting to see New York in the finals. It was kind of just a sexy pick. But once Indiana won Game 1, which we've talked about many times, they just really ripped it away from the Knicks. And then once they won Game 2, I mean, you win those first two games on the road. It is really, really tough to come back from that. And so I think the Knicks did all you could. I think when you are down 0-2, losing your first two at home, I think you could just hope to get to a Game 6 where you're like, hey, let's get to a Game 6. It's going to be on the road. If we can get that one, we got Game 7 at our crib. And so I'm pretty sure that's what the Knicks were thinking. But at the same time, Indiana was like, hey, we're up 3-1. We got three opportunities to win the series, and had a little bit of a clunker in Game 5. That typically happens when a team is down 3-1. A lot of times they lose that Game 5 on the road, and then handled business in the third quarter and second half and Game 6. And here we are, 25 years in the making. Pacers back in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, second appearance, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, when the Knicks lost 2 at home, that pretty much sealed their fate in this series. Like, they got that Game 5 and kind of made it a little cute, but we just knew that this was going to be very, very hard for the Knicks to beat the Pacers 3 times in a row after going down 3-1.
Right.
So when you look at the game, and the first half was pretty close. Pacers are up by 4 to kind of close out the half, and then that third quarter, they pretty much went into like a full press, a swarm. Their defense was going crazy in the third and fourth quarter. Nembhard had 6 steals on the night. He was in Jalen Brunson's grill the whole second half. You could tell it was getting under his skin. And to be honest, throughout the series, the Pacers kind of did that to Jalen Brunson. Even though he had great games, he had 42, he had 30-point games. He had obviously all 20-point games until last night, which he had 19. But in general, they were just getting after him, especially when it got to that second half, which to me, he looked pretty fatigued in the third and fourth quarters in this series, right? Like when you see him kind of struggling with the ball, like there was that Game 1, just like when it came down to it, yes, he had a great game, but how many turnovers, how many mistakes did he make towards the end when they had that comeback? And that's what they did throughout the series. And it wasn't like they have the best defense, Indiana. Obviously not. They're kind of middle of the pack. But when they want to play tough and they want to play with that energy, they swarm them like crazy. And you can see when the defense becomes contagious, that leads to their offense. And then they're passing, they're moving the ball quickly, they're shooting threes, getting wide open layups and dunks. And that's kind of how they create their momentum, which creates victories for them.
Nembhard was huge. Siakam really gave credit to him after the game, and he was just, like you said, on Brunson all series long. Brunson has some really great games, and I just think it kind of wore on him, as you mentioned. Knicks were trying different things, like playing a little bit more, adding a little bit more depth to the rotation, and I think it helped a couple of games there where they were a little bit not as gassed. But yeah, I mean, going back to Indiana's defense, I think the style of offense they have could like kind of skew their defensive numbers at times because they want to go up and down, right? And they want to score quick. And sometimes when you have teams like that, I think of like like those Phoenix Suns team of like 2006 to 8. Remember them? Like like they were just you even after a made basket, they were putting up a shot with like 3 or 4 seconds left. And so I think they showed this series and even the other series, like when it's one game and they really want to play well defensively, they have the athletes and the length to do that. And they have kind of some like individual, contributors on defense like Nembhard. And so, man, kudos to him. 6 steals is huge. He was a pest all game long, and I think by the time we got to the third quarter, Knicks kind of were out of it. I think once I saw Indiana build a double-digit lead, again, we've seen many leads shrink against the Knicks, and in particular these playoffs. But just had a feeling that Indiana had their number at that point.
Yeah, when they started upping the pace and they went up by 12, 14, 16, and then the Knicks would kind of creep it back down to 7, 8, 9. You just knew that all it took was a steal and a 3, a steal, like just one little mini run, and the game was over, and that's what happened in the fourth quarter. But that's what Indiana can do, man. They are on a hell of a ride this playoffs. Their momentum is at 100 right now. And to be honest, they're going to give OKC a run for their money. I mean, we all know that OKC is a heavy favorite, but the way they're playing, the confidence that they have, and to be honest, they still have a champion as a head coach, right? He's won a championship. And he definitely puts in, obviously, a lot of work, film work, and every game he knows how to make adjustments, and you can see it from a game-to-game basis. So I think that will still play some dividends in this finals, even though we know how good OKC is. We know how good their offense and defense is. But I tweeted this out on Saturday, but I feel like this will be the first college vibes finals, NBA finals, right? Number one, just based on the environment, like going into OKC, from what everybody says is the loudest environment, right? So it's more like that college kind of atmosphere versus like, going to New York or going to LA where it's like all the stars, glitz and glamour and all that stuff, all business. And then just the style of play of both these teams. I mean, when's the last time you've seen people picking up people full court 3/4 of the game? Right. And like making people work constantly. Ball movement is amazing. Right. So I think we're going to see a little bit different style. Might not do the ratings like the NBA always wants to, but if you're a true NBA basketball fan, you'll love this finals.
Yeah. I mean, I we'll see. As far as the numbers, like the ratings, they're probably not going to look pretty. And typically because it's the two teams are in kind of one area. I know that Midwest, middle of the country. I think they can't be too far from each other, and so.
But go ahead. No, I was gonna say, is this? I know we talked about this before, but is this the first like Midwest this close of finals? Like, I mean, I'll have to look it up, but
I mean, because obviously when you have West versus East, it's like, I mean, and then like it's usually further, I guess, West versus East, but OKC being middle of the country, Indiana being in the East, but middle of the country. It's like, yeah, it's interesting. It's just obviously these teams of like Indiana's second time in the finals, OKC's technically their second time, not counting the Seattle Supersonics, of course. I think the numbers are going to do well there. The especially OKC, it just feels like the fans are just like right on top of you. And then Indiana too. So it's going to be wild in terms of that. I think a lot of like NBA teams, like they don't have like that where they full court press or half court press every possession because it tires them out. But when you got some of these young guys, it's obviously done well for both. So yeah, man, it's going to be, I know we'll talk a little bit about it later, but should be a close one. I mean, Indiana, sorry, I just kind of wanted to touch on like Rick Carlisle for a second, because I know that's something we don't really talk about him a lot. I mean, we may have mentioned his name once or something on the show, but yeah, hell of a coach. Back to the finals. I think a sign of a good coach is not being stubborn with your kind of style that you would like to coach or some of your schemes and things. Because if you think about the teams he's coached, like this first time with Indiana, they were really like slow pace, knock them out, drag them out kind of team. You go to Dallas, you obviously have like a Dirk win a championship there. That's a little bit more up tempo. And then you have like an Indiana second time around where it's completely different than his first time around with Indiana. He's really just catering to the guys he has. And I think that's always a good sign of a top-notch coach that could really make adjustments to like how the NBA is at the time. And so kudos to him. If there's one thing obviously OKC has a great young coach, but hey, if there's one thing that you can say maybe Indiana has a slight advantage of, is that experience in coaching.
Yeah, I think that for sure will be advantage for them, right? I mean, if you're going to lean on some championship experience, you got it there. Yep. And then I wanted to kind of touch on Siakam, right? Because he obviously got the Eastern Conference MVP of the conference finals. And did you see Tyrese almost accept the award, or he started stepping up and then kind of was like, yeah, I got it. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Pascal Siakam, and then kind of stepped back, because it was kind of, the internet was kind of having a little field day with that, but that was kind of funny. But overall,
like, I mean, by one vote or something, right? I didn't know who votes for those, but
to be honest, they were pretty much co-MVP. Like, without Tyrese, Indiana would not have nearly done what they did, and without Siakam, the same thing, right? So Siakam's been probably their most consistent player in the regular season, and really in the playoffs. You know what you're going to get out of him. You're going to get 20 plus. He's going to play great on defense because he's a great defender as well too, and just get his buckets. And so it's cool to see him, and he's obviously got some championship experience. He's won a championship before. So I think that's going to play some dividends for the Pacers. And I think that he at least brings that veteran leadership to a young team.
Yeah, I was just looking at the stats because like right at the beginning of the game, I don't know if it was Reggie Miller. He said that Siakam has had a good game basically every other game in the conference finals. And not that the other ones were bad, but like the ones that were good, they were really good. And so he was due for like a big game because the game before he didn't have that good of a game. And so I was looking out for that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And like, little do we know, right? And lo and behold, he had a monster, game last night, and he has been, Mr. Consistency. So like, and I think it's kind of more from like a points perspective, but he does more too. And so he's, I think if it was, if they can give out a conference finals MVP, which they just started recently, they could have done Hallie and him for sure. I think, like we were saying, I think it was one vote, but yeah, man, he won it with Toronto in 2019. It was his third season in the league. At that time, He even said like, man, like, I thought I'd be going a bunch of years in a row. Like I've, going on my third season, going to the finals in the third season in the league. But,
That's
you are.
crazy. I didn't realize that was his third season. Like I felt like he
Yep.
was like, not that he was a veteran then, but I don't know
Yeah, he
why
has
I
that
felt like he was a little bit older at the
vibe.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said. And so now he's definitely a veteran. And so that's pretty cool to see. I mean, we got on the other side, I guess Alex Caruso was in the finals with the Lakers. And so
yeah,
I think those would be the two folks. So, I mean, when you got two teams that really haven't made the finals in a long time, you're going to have a lot of players that don't have that much experience there. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but kudos to the Pistons, to the Pacers, man. They we didn't draw this up, but they, as a 4 seed, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They didn't think they would get to that next step, but they did it. And here we are.
Yeah, no, great, great series by the Pacers, and I think we're going to get a great matchup. It's not what anybody drew up. I don't think too many people had OKC and the Pacers. I'm sure a lot of people had some OKC in there, but Pacers OKC was not on everybody's drawing board. But we're here.
We're here for it.
So that kind of leads to our next segment here with the Knicks, right? So they made a lot of trades and changes to their team going into this year, right? They obviously added Mikal Bridges and added Karl Anthony Towns. And those are big-time players. And they got further than they did the previous year, right? So they got to the conference finals. So what do you see with them moving forward? We kind of know that they're kind of stuck for the most part with their roster. Unless they think about trading any of those players. But what do you think they do moving forward?
So Knicks, just like some of the other top Eastern Conference teams, I think the summer that we thought teams were going to have is going to be a little different. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the Jason Tatum injury. So I think the East is so open next year that I don't see a team teams that like the Knicks that are like pretty much almost got there. They may not make too drastic of moves because they're like, you know what? Like we got the guns, we got the players, we know just one more year of experience that maybe will kind of take us to the promised land, so to speak. And so I do think it's because of two reasons. One, they don't really have a lot of flexibility. As you said, they can make a trade, which is possible. Maybe they do. Maybe they need to get, some more depth, something on the margins. They definitely need to do. They can't come back with the same exact team. That's for sure. But that core, I would imagine, is still going to be there. They made their big moves last offseason. And so, trading for Karl Anthony Towns, and then Mikal Bridges, right? That was the other big trade. And so, we'll obviously, get into their free agent things later, which they don't really have many. But I don't know. I mean, do you maybe is a Josh Hart expendable a bit? Is that like a guy that might still have some value for some teams and maybe they can get some more size or I don't know, maybe another bruiser, maybe Marcus Smart, somebody like that. I don't know. Just thinking of someone that they can get on the margins.
I think the tough thing for the Knicks is that they sacrificed offense for defense with acquiring Karl Anthony Towns, right? So it's like you know what you're going to get offensively. He's a hell of a talent. But from the reports after the game, they came out really quick with this, but that the coaches and players started growing frustrated with Cat on the defensive side. There was like lapse in judgment, a lapse in coverages, and then a lot of it seemed like he wasn't owning up to those mistakes on the floor, on that end of the floor, which then the players and coaches kind of got frustrated. Like, does he even understand how important this is to the team? So I felt like there might be some disconnect there. So that's one thing, right? Just making sure that they can get him to play the defense that they need him to play. Whether that's at the 4 or the 5, and I think maybe they found that Mitchell Robinson and him can play together. And I think
Yeah.
that at least was a silver lining in this conference finals is like, all right, can we play these two bigs together and then maybe have Josh Hart come off the bench, right, and provide that like bench unit scoring and also just defensive presence. And I think they lost a little heart with losing like Dante, right, DiVincenzo, right. I think that was like a big thing for them last year, with like how much momentum he sparked and things like that. So I think adding another player in that realm would be important for them because they do have to have a bench. They can't go 7 deep, and they need to have another 2-3 players, a couple guards, I think, to make up for what Brunson lacks on the defensive end, right? And then also just another big.
Yeah, because I think another big's important because Mitchell Robinson, he does tend to be a little injury prone.
Yep.
So they rolled with that, obviously, these last few games, but in a long regular season, we'll see how that goes. But they did find something for sure. I think with what you just mentioned about the frustrations with Cat, we now see why every once in a while he was more so benched in crucial moments.
Sure.
In the fourth, like game 2, where the Knicks probably thought, is the offense that, we need points, we need to score, right? It's the NBA, it's basketball, but that lack of defense, is it just does it cancel each other out? And so let's get somebody out there that can defend. And so, yeah, man, it's going to be some huge questions. I think when you look at the Knicks season, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's a good year. It's just the fact that they probably faced a team, they faced a team that they probably thought they should beat. They lost to them last year, and all the talk was we weren't healthy. We lost almost everybody in game 7. And so they had a chance to put their money where their mouth was and just didn't get the job done. But I know we talked a little bit about Tibbs. Question for you with that. Do you think they did enough to stick with Tibbs another year?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, them getting to the conference finals and beating Boston the way they did even before Tatum went out, right? So they were probably going to go up 3-1 regardless in that series, and they probably would have beat Boston with Tatum healthy. So I think that was kind of going to happen regardless. I think they ran into a team that they didn't match up well with, right? The running gun, the fast young legs. Boston was a team that's going to just rely on the 3-point shot, right? And if they're not hitting them, then sometimes that's going to be the problem. And so overall, you're like, okay, you go into this team that has so much momentum and is just running through teams, and there's sometimes you can't do anything about it. The game 1 was just so huge for them. I don't think they were able to get through that mental hurdle going into game 2. And when you lose those 2 games at home, it is just a wrap usually. And so I think if they would have just won game 1, this series would have been totally different. Like, could you imagine right now the Knicks winning that game by 14 to 16 points? How different this series would have been? I mean, it's hard to put in words because I just don't think the Pacers would have done what they did.
It's so different. We always, all commentators, we always talk about in a series, like, it's just one game, it's just one quarter, it's game 1. There's so much more to a series. But there are those moments in a series that you lose the series because of that. And so up 13, 14 points with a few minutes left in a game, you got to win that game. And if it would have happened, if Knicks would have won game 1 and it would have happened game 2, something like that, it would still be frustrating, but it's different. It's game 1. It's whoever gets that game, we know takes the momentum. And it carried over. It carried over for an extra game. And sure, Knicks won game 3, but it was a little bit too late.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Cam Miller here. They need a defensive player. 100% agree, Cam. It's kind of 100%. What we talked about, but they definitely need a couple defensive players to kind of go along with what they're lacking from Cat and Jalen Brunson. So we'll see what adjustments they make. But I do think Tibbs' job is safe and he'll be returning. And I don't think there's really many other coaches out there right now that will make too much difference on this team. going into the playoffs, you heard me. I said Tibbs loses in the first round.
That's why I brought it up.
Detroit, that was going to be trouble. And Mike Malone's sitting out there kind of looking pretty. So
he's announcing for ESPN.
Yeah, I know. That could have been a little scenario, but I don't think he did a hell of a job in this playoffs. So I wouldn't. I think his job is pretty safe there.
Oh yeah. One thing I forgot to mention, I like watching the pregame of TNT because we know it's the last game on NBA on TNT is done. It was like it just felt like they just knew. I don't know, like they knew it was the last game. Like it was just something about it. Like the pregame leading up to the game, it was like, yeah, this is it. And so obviously Knicks could have won and there would have been another one, but I don't know. I just had that feeling, just like the way it was like a bit somber. They were really making it like it was the last. And so that was pretty funny.
And we should have known. Yeah, we should have known when Tyrese Halliburton showed up in the all black, the black Louis bag.
Reggie Miller too, actually. He came in all black.
Even Reggie said, "I'm wearing the black on purpose." I see that, right? So we should have known that when you do that, it's a wrap. And they got confidence, and you better win it. But they had some confidence going into it. So, All right, so let's get into a little preview. We're gonna do a more dialed in show, probably on Tuesday or Wednesday. Just fully focusing on the Pacers and OKC, and just kind of breaking down some matchups and things like that. But overall, when you take a look at this series from what they did in the conference finals and what these teams have done in the playoffs, what do you see this series kind of being? Like, how does it look for you on your end as far as offensive juggernaut versus defensive juggernaut, right? And they both can play offensively really well as well. So what do you think is going to kind of happen here?
Well, definitely, like you said, it was going to be fun doing a whole in-depth show in a couple of days. And so just early prognosis. So Thunder 9.5-point favorite. And so we know they're going to be a pretty big favorite just because they're the 1 seed and they've dominated the Western Conference Finals. And so we talked a little bit about it. We kind of thought it would be interesting because it's the two probably deepest teams. Two teams that really didn't shorten their rotation like we customarily would see in the playoffs. So going back to that college style, I'm expecting a high energy series, no matter how long it goes, and so I think that defense usually takes care of offense. So we're going to see high octane offense versus shut down number 1 defense in the league. And so it'll be interesting, man. Like I know I've counted out the Pacers the first 3 rounds, and I'm kind of leaning on doing it this round. And it's not so much because like I don't think the Pacers are good. I think the Pacers are really good. They're in the finals. I just think I think you mentioned like a buzzsaw with the Thunder, and I think they're going to run into that eventually. I see the first few games being close, being tight, and the Thunder, maybe being up 2-1 or so after 3 games. But yeah, man, it should be fun. What do you kind of seeing just early on? We know it's going to be offense versus defense, things like that. A lot of interesting matchups, though, to say the least.
I am excited for the series, number 1, right? I feel like it's going to be if you love basketball, it's going to be so much fun to watch because you're going to see a up and running team from Indiana, just running, keeping up the pace. You're going to see, so Indiana is one of the top offensive transition points per game in the transition, right? They have the highest in the playoffs so far. And on the other end, OKC has the lowest points against on transition, right? So they're playing a great defense against the transition. So I think just that clash right there is going to be pretty amazing, right? To see if Indiana can get up and running, how much a difference that will make against this OKC team, because they haven't really seen that. Obviously, Minnesota can do that, right? They kept it really low kind of their typical style of play, like slow pace, which is something that fed into OKC, and it was a wrap. If you get them in the half court, they can just swarm you and kind of take that apart. But if you got a team like Indiana, where you're led by Tyrese, who's always looking for people open, trying to move the ball, like some of the ball movement I saw last night was just amazing from them. And like they're swinging the ball 6-7 times before somebody even really dribbles. And then all of a sudden it's like cut, dribble, somebody cuts, layup, right? So they have some great plays and just ability to kind of get some easy buckets. The other thing that really stands out to me is what they did to Jalen Brunson. And I'll keep harping on that. They just made him tired and frustrated. And I said over and over and over, you have to make SGA frustrated. You have to speed his game up, and you have to not let him feel like he's in control. And if they can do that in some sort of fashion, SGA is going to get his 20 to 30. There's no doubt about that. But if you can speed him up and at least make him work harder than normal, like if he's dribbling the ball up and you're guarding and Nimhardt's on him from full court, right? Stuff like that. Don't let him get into his easy spots that he'll get into. I think we'll have a hell of a series if they do that.
We were screaming at Minnesota, like, please do this. You're just talking about that, and so let's see if someone does it. And I feel like Indiana, like you said, they showed in the Eastern Conference Finals that they have the personnel to do that, and they have the kind of skill and strategy that they did with Jalen Brunson. That's something that I would expect SGA to see, and so we'll see how he adapts to that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we know that OKC is, they're big too, so that'll be interesting to see, like, as far as like that how that plays out. And Ben Williams, some of the secondary guys, like Siakam's probably has to have like an all world finals, not every other game. So I think Indiana to win will have to play damn near perfect basketball, which could happen in a series, and the Thunder just have to kind of do what they've been doing to win it in 5.
Yeah, for sure. I also like the depth of both teams. Like being able to play 10 deep in a finals is going to be crazy, right? For them to go into their bench on both sides will lead to a finals where you don't see people really tired because you got other guys that can kind of come in. And so those third and fourth quarters of these games are going to be amazing, right? Because I don't think you're going to see a lot of fatigue on both sides. So that's something that I think is just going to be fun to kind of watch. And that's why I liken this more to like a college feel. Like you're just throwing guys out there. Sometimes you're rotating people in. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun for the NBA fan.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much history between these two teams, so there's a lot of unknown, which is kind of nice too, or kind of mysterious in a way. And so we know what we're going to have out there because we've been following them all playoffs long. But it being East-West, we know they only match up twice. Thunder did win both games this year. One was early in the season, and one was a little bit later on, like the last 10, 12 games or so. Yeah. And so, I'm sure Indiana's doesn't really matter at this point. They're playing a lot better at this time than they were then. And so that I'm sure that's what they're hanging their hat on. And, for Indiana's sake, just like as usual, you got to get one of those first two, on the road.
Yeah. And we got to remember, OKC was 29-1 against the Eastern Conference in the regular season.
That's where it comes to play now.
If that has anything to do with it, I think that might be a little bit of, it's different once the playoffs have gone on and you got some momentum and things like that. But we do have to kind of dial back and look at what OKC has done as a whole. And you understand why they are heavy favorites in this series.
Yeah, I mean the game separation is 18 games, so that's got to be one of the higher in terms of regular season results and records. That's got to be one of the biggest gaps. I mean, there's probably been some big ones, like Denver and Miami a couple of years ago, and so there's been times where you've had a pretty heavy favorite, and so. This is a little different though, because it's not your typical heavy favorite. It's just because they've been playing so well this year that they are. And so, yeah, man, looking forward to breaking it down even more on the next show.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we do know by your stat, Eric, how many champions have been?
It's on
How
the
many
line,
champions
baby.
have been a top 3 seed? How many, Eric? You can give it to the audience again. We've harped on this the whole playoffs and before the playoffs.
Yep. So remember, 76 out of 78 NBA champions have been a top 3 seed. There was a number 4 seed. So, hey, shout out to Indiana.
Yep.
They would be the second number 4 seed if they were to win it. But, yeah, obviously, if it was Knicks and Thunder, this would have been wrapped up. But yeah, it's that statistic is on the line as well during these finals.
Yeah. The chances are against Indiana at this point. So,
yep.
All right. So we're gonna get to our last segment, and we're only gonna have one more of these, but it is time for schools out. Time for summer vacay for those New York Knicks. So
I think I forgot my shade, so must not be going anywhere too bright.
Well, if I'm anybody in New York, I like to get out in New York, and we are gonna go.
It's got my beach ball
to the Bahamas or wherever they want to go. Get our little sand castle. You got a beach ball? I got a beach ball too. Yep. Right there.
Oh, nice.
So the Knicks, unfortunately, beat the Boston Celtics. So they won their championship right there because they got over the hump. But they unfortunately did not get to the NBA Finals and will be watching the finals from somewhere else.
Got to get out of New York. It's about to get probably super humid over there. And so just like 28 of the other teams right now, school's out, class is done. And so had a good run, had a nice season. The Knicks finished the year at was it 50? I just had it here. 51-31, solid season for sure. We're the 3rd seed, beat the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics, and pretty much a huge surprise. We know Tatum got injured, but as you pointed out earlier, it was going to be 3-1 even with Tatum there. And so pretty good season overall. Some of their weaknesses did finally show though. And so, I think I pointed out earlier, really no top free agents or no big free agents really out of their roster. A lot of their players are being paid handsomely. And so not a whole lot of flexibility going into the offseason, but there's obviously the trade market. They only have 1 draft pick, which is the 50th pick in the draft. So no real young talent to be expected to come in. As we pointed out earlier, probably something around the margins. And so, hey, it's vacation time, but you're going to be joining 28 other teams. And so don't feel too bad.
Yep. And according to Cam, New York is cold right now, and the kids are still in school. The kids may be in school, but those big kids of the Knicks are out. They are on summer vacay. So you'll see Brunson and Kat somewhere down south.
Absolutely. Well,
all right.
What can we do?
So that wraps up another episode of the Hoops Rehab Show. Eric, you got any parting words here?
No, other than excited about the finals. Sad to see TNT, NBA on TNT go. We know some of the guys are going to be Barkley and them on ESPN, but it is going to be different. It's we're used to them covering the games and the halftime, and for us, especially our age, we know when we think of basketball, we think of the NBA on TNT. So that's sad to see, but other than that, 1 series to go. Let's get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, the TNT is something that we grew up on, and I don't think I would have enjoyed basketball as much as I do now if it wasn't for Inside the NBA. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in high school, college, where we're just like,
Yeah,
"Hey, you watching this? You watching this? See what they
I
did?" And
know they
we
say
were we
silly
were
things,
talking
but it's
about
funny, man.
clips the other day, and one of my favorites was when they were interviewing Kobe, and they did that scene where Kobe was jumping over a car, right? So they had the whole commercial, and then they had Kobe on. They had a screen for him to look at, and like he has no idea what's going on. And Kenny's talking about how he filmed something, and he got his own hyper dunks as well, and.
Yeah, and he's like,
And Kenny Smith gets up there next to the car and just gets annihilated by the car. And his shoes are stuck there, right? And then you find out Ernie is driving the car and Kobe's cracking up. And to me, that's just like one of my favorite moments just because I mean, number one, it was Kobe, right? But number two, like those dudes just always knew how to make people laugh.
oh yeah, I mean, just countless memories. I mean, Charles Barkley had just so many just
Yeah.
sayings, and um, you know, um, and then the segments too. Shaq and a fool, which it's something
Yeah.
that could still be there. I
Yeah.
think about like the Otto Porter when he's just like stationary at the 3-point line, and like the guy like runs and he just stays there. Like to me, that was just like hilarious. Like just and it's just the way their delivery.
For sure. Yeah, the Shaq and the Fool is great, and then who he play for is
Yeah,
I forgot about that segment because Barkley would never know at the start of a season who somebody went to, like any free agent. It didn't matter who it was. Unless it was a primary big time player, he had no idea where a player was. So yeah, man, they're going to still be on ESPN. I don't know if it's going to be the same, but
right.
Regardless, TNT will be missed.
Yeah, please ESPN, don't have them scale it down because it's not. You gotta let them do their thing, or else it's just going to be a watered down version.
Yes, sir. All right. So again, we will be on Tuesday or Wednesday night. We'll let you guys know before we go live, but we're gonna have a live breakdown of the OKC and Pacers, and just kind of predict a finals winner there. All right, guys. Until then, the Hoops Rehab team is out. Peace out, guys.
Peace.